Well, we woke up this morning. The sun was still shining. The world was still spinning. And the world did not end last night. And nor will it, Lord willing, over the next 2 years. But it looks like the Democrats will take control of the Senate effectively. It'll be a 50-50 split. They were going to retain control of the House anyway. And for all intents and purposes, and not to violate YouTube's guidelines, Joe Biden will be president, and Kamala Harris will be vice president, which puts her in the role of the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So Democrats control the two branches of government for which they can, the two legislative chambers and the presidency, and all of the bureaucratic departments that come with the office of the executive. And a lot of people across America right now, today is January 6th, and if you know anything, if you've followed even an inkling of news, you know the showdown that is going to be coming up today with more than a dozen senators, Republican senators, objecting to the certification of votes from the Electoral College, and there's supposed to be some 80 to 100 representatives who will be doing so as well. And depending on who you listen to, you will get conflicting information on what the role of Mike Pence is or what it can be during this process. Ranging all the way from he cannot do anything except open the votes, read them off, and he has no role, to Mike Pence can single-handedly discard whatever votes he wants and choose the slate of electors that states like Pennsylvania or Michigan sent, because they had sent dueling slates of electors, one for Biden, one for Trump, and that Mike Pence can single-handedly discard those and pick the electors for Trump, giving him the presidency. Something tells me that the truth is somewhere in the middle, and quite honestly, this is going to be a very gray area, because this is uncharted waters for all of us who are living in, and there's people who have brought forward different examples of whenever this kind of stuff has happened before, and none of us know. We will see, because the two things that this is based off of is the 12th Amendment and the Electoral Count Act from 1860-something. I can't remember exactly when, but it's the Electoral Count Act and the 12th Amendment. So that's what these two things are being based off of, and quite frankly, there's a lot of ambiguous language that leaves room for interpretation, leaves room for a little bit of wiggle room for different avenues to be taken. At least that's what most people think. I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry as some people might make it out to be. But we will see what happens today. I don't know whatsoever what is going to happen today, because I was the guy who thought that Trump would undoubtedly win in November and that Republicans would maintain control of the Senate. And none of those things came true. The only thing that came true is that I said I thought that the Democrats would probably maintain control of the House. So I'm 1 for 3. But really, I just kind of wanted to vent just a little bit after the Georgia Senate last night, and people are already making the case for fraud. They're already bringing out allegations as such. I'm not going to get into that, because quite frankly, this is one that I think, quite frankly, that Republicans just lost. Because I feel like people really did not feel that their vote matters anymore. And I mean, Republicans run the state of Georgia. You know, this is their state. You have a Republican governor, you have a Republican Secretary of State whose job is to run elections. And after what happened in November, after all of the allegations and the things coming out of Georgia, you would have thought that from a PR standpoint, at least, that they would have done something to really overhaul to make sure that the runoff was right. And again, I'm not even saying anything one way or the other about any kind of allegations of fraud or anything like that. So if YouTube takes down this video, I mean, there's no basis for it. I'm not making any statement on that whatsoever. What I am saying is how, after the last time, true or not, did you not put on the best possible, the smoothest possible election that you could possibly do to restore confidence in your constituents and people all across America in our elections? How could you not have done anything to have precipitated that kind of change? There's people all across America today. There's a massive rally going on today in Washington, D.C. And there's people all across America today who are despondent, and I think rightfully so. There's people who are angry, furious, and I think rightfully so. There's people who are fearful of what the future looks like, and I think rightfully so as well. All of the speed bumps have been removed now. All of the obstacles in the Democrats' way are gone. And what that entails over the next 2 years, I have no idea. Because I think undoubtedly Republicans win the House in 2022. You know, I said this going into the 2018 midterms that Democrats are probably going to take the House. That's the way that this kind of stuff swings. And the Democrats have been in control of the House for a while. And the pendulum is going to swing back. People are, because whenever Trump was elected, he had House, Senate, and then, of course, the presidency. 2 years, no speed bumps from the Democrats. And then in 2018, Democrats take the House. I think in 2022, Republicans will take the House after 2 years of unadulterated governance by the Democrats. That's just the way that America swings. But in those 2 years, what is going to happen? I have no idea. I have some ideas of what they would like to do, what they're actually going to do, what they're going to cross off the list first. I don't know. Because there's a whole lot of things. There is a whole lot of things that have been in the rumblings over the course of the Trump presidency that have faded away that I have a feeling are going to come back to the limelight very, very quickly. And there's some things that haven't even left the periphery of our consciousness, and they're talking about implementing Medicare for all. Do you really think that they will not jump on the opportunity to, after what they did with Obamacare? People didn't like Obamacare. Whenever it was passed, it was massively unpopular. They said, no, you need this. You don't know it yet, but you need this. Massively unpopular. They ram it down the American people's throats, and we're in the mess that we are now with healthcare. But what's going to happen is they're going to come back and they're going to say, wait, we can fix this. Whenever it's a problem they created in the first place. Medicare for all is assuredly on the docket. The Green New Deal, the Paris Climate Accords, Do you really think we're going to have any sort of coherent immigration policy, or do you think we're basically going to have open borders? I think our immigration policy is going to be even more radical, even more open borders than Barack Obama's ever was. Our spending is going to be worse than ever, but nobody cares about that anymore. If you follow us on Twitter, you know that we've been very consistent on spending, on fiscal responsibility for the government, but nobody cares about that anymore, not even Republicans. Do you think Mitch McConnell really denied the $2,000 checks because all of a sudden now he cares about fiscal responsibility after the spending bills that they passed under Trump, which I've been critical of every time? I've been critical of all these spending bills with trillions and trillions of dollars. That was precipitated, that was precedented by the Obama administration and by Democrats. Unheard of spending bills under Obama, which then Trump carried into his term, and now is Washington normal. You're going to have unimaginable amounts of spending, printing of money, inflation, open borders, Medicare for all. Wait until, you haven't heard anything in all of 2020 about any kind of, mass shooting or school shooting, anything like that, even in the beginning of the year, which, those are supposed to be happening literally every day, a couple a day. Wait until the first one in 2021. Do you not think that they're going to come right after your guns? Even without one, quite frankly. Even without one, do you not think that they're not going to come with an assault weapons ban, which really is just any firearm that looks scary, black, and tactical, fires the exact same rounds as your grandfather's Remington or Winchester or Henry rifle, Do you really think they're not going to come after you for that? Do you really think that they're not going to implement some sort of pressures on firearms manufacturers, ammo manufacturers, to make it more difficult for them to sell their product, rapidly increase their costs to where it's no longer in any way affordable to own firearms or practice or shoot with them on a regular basis? There's so many things that we are very much in trouble for. And folks, I don't know anymore. I really thought after this year, and I know a lot of other people did, that after this year, there is no way a Democrat gets in office like this ever again. And here we are. Here we are. After the way that they've handled COVID, their draconian measures, their lockdowns, the literal just robbing people of their incomes and their livelihoods, after the widespread endorsement of people destroying property, people's livelihoods, burning it down, torching the institution of law enforcement and police, multiple attempts at impeachment, and or at least multiple discussions, investigations, and then you have the actual impeachment of Donald Trump. I just really thought that there is no possible way, and then they put up an absolutely incompetent, anemic candidate of Joe Biden, and they win. With a record number of votes as well. I don't know what to say anymore. I'm at a total loss. Honestly. All we can do from this point forward, and I'm like sitting here trying to think of other things just while I'm talking, that right off the bat is going to be stuff that Democrats are going to try to implement. Just the crazy regulations on fossil fuels, fracking. So prepare for gas prices that you have not seen since the Obama administration. Regulations on businesses, like we already said, firearms. Prepare for the church to be shoved back even further into its corner out of the public square. Prepare for your children to be taught every despicable thing that the left has ever said about the United States of America. Prepare for the filibuster to end. Prepare for the way that government operates to forever and fundamentally change. And that isn't hyperbole. All throughout the Trump administration, we've still been feeling the effects of what happened during the Obama administration. And one of the biggest things is Obamacare still to this day lives on. It's not repealed. It's still law. It's just that the individual mandate is gone. Prepare in the next 2, and that was accomplished in Obama's first 2 years, before the Tea Party in 2010. Prepare for a similar thing to happen here with Joe Biden and his presidency. I know I saw a lot of people celebrating and really happy about the loss last night because they thought it was going to stick it to Mitch McConnell. Listen, I'm no Mitch McConnell fan. Never have been. But this isn't good. This isn't something to celebrate. This isn't something to be joyous about. In any way, in any capacity, even if you think it does stick it to Mitch McConnell. It's just a disaster for everyone. Ultimately, so what do we do now? And I've been rambling now for almost 20 minutes, so I'll wrap this up. But what do we do now? Well, what we have to do is we have to root ourselves in the principles that we have espoused for all of this time, that we have claimed to espouse, and it's time to really put up or shut up in this regard. Do we truly believe that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? And you know the rest. Do we truly believe that? And do we believe in the Constitution? Do we believe in the rights given to us in the Bill of Rights? Because that has to be our foundation. Because what we're doing right now in America is we're looking at other nations. This is what the left has done for so long, is they're looking at other nations and how to emulate them. And they don't realize that those nations have tried to implement us and failed. They failed because they've ultimately resorted to a more restrictive form of government, one that provides their citizens, their populace, less liberty than ours. America is in a class of its own. We really are freedom's last great hope on this earth. And what we have to decide, you and me, is, are we going to let that flame die? I don't know about you, but I'm not ready. The time is now. Over these next 2 years, it is time for us to fight. We've gotten lazy over the course of the Trump presidency. And it is time now for us to unite on these principles. We don't have to agree with everyone 100% because we need everyone that we can. We must unite on these principles. And it's time for us to dig in our heels and say no. Not for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. We must fight.